beloved viewers, it's 9 p.m. You're watching on Live RTD channel. Welcome to this English news edition. Here are the top stories. A closing of the National Week of the Artists and Mother Tongue. And on the regional scene in Sudan, send humanitarian aid for the earthquake in Turkey. Those were the top stories. Thanks for joining us in our newsroom. Following the terrible earthquake in Turkey and Syria, which claimed more than 24,000 victims, like the rest of the countries in the world, the embassy of the Republic of Djibouti in Turkey has taken care of the compatriot living in Turkey and also, especially in the case affected by the earthquake, despite all the remarkable effort made by the diplomatic staff of our country to help our citizens living in Turkey, our embassy in Turkey, Mr. Aden Hussein Abdullah, informed us about the death of four students in the region of Kahramanmaraş. Prayer and thought goes to the students of this Turkish from Djibouti. Prayer and thought goes to our children, the late Sahal Abdi Jama and also Abdurazak Aden and the late Nasir Usman Ahmed, but finally the late Muhammad Ahmed Saeed, who were buried in Turkey in the presence of member of the embassy and its staff, member of Djiboutian diaspora in Turkey. The entire Djiboutian population was affected by this sad news. The Djiboutian families who are the Djiboutian students and are our parents, brothers and sisters, relative of the four victims are deeply saddened in this death. In these painful circumstances, the ambassador of Djibouti in Turkey, Mr. Aden Hussein Abdullahi, and his staff address their most sadness condolence to the family and relative of four victims, the students of Djibouti, following the terrible earthquake in Turkey. He said in a televised intervention, the Djibouti ambassador in Ankara addressed his sincere condolence to the family and relative of the four Djiboutian students, the late Sahal Abdi Jama and Abdurazak Aden, and also Nasir Usman Ahmed, and finally Muhammad Ahmed Saeed, who were killed to death by the devastating earthquake that hit southwestern Turkey. The ambassador Aden Hussein Abdullahi in Ankara stressed that the embassy, in close cooperation with the Djiboutian community and Djiboutian students in Ankara, had taken the initiative from the first moment of the earthquake to support Djiboutian students by evacuating them from the affected areas and providing them with the suitable accommodation in Ankara. He also noted in his intervention that 64 students, including 48 boys, were evacuated in the days after the earthquake, saying that embassy officially, the Djiboutian community and the ulama participated in the burials of the four Djiboutian students lost in his tragic contest. This tragic contest, Djibouti's ambassador to Ankara, Aden Hussein Abdullahi, in Ankara also called on citizens to not believe the false information circulating on social networks, stressing that the state of Djibouti was fully prepared to support Djiboutian students affected by the devastating earthquake to the western Turkey. the Djiboutian students evacuated from the disaster areas by the earthquake that killed more than 24,000 people reacted on this with the emotion and thanked the support of the Djibouti ambassador to Turkey, Mr. Adam Hussein Abdullahi, and his staff. The Japanese embassy in Djibouti, in cooperation with the French Institute in Djibouti, organized a cultural event entitled Japanese Cultural Evening. This event include a display of a variety of Japanese culture, including the Japanese art of the calligraphy. It was organized and equipped by the Japan Self-Defense Forces. The evening conducted with a screening of Japanese films, Spirit Away, produced by Studio in Japan. The Japanese embassy in Djibouti, in collaboration with the French Institute of Djibouti, they organized this cultural evening event to the calligraphy, and this was organized to equipped by the Japan self-defense forces in this away from the production of Japan. One of the women of the Merjok district in these areas within the framework of the legislative also the legislative election delegation from the National Media Committee were the center in the Merjuk. This event was organized by the Ministry of Youth and Culture in order to conclude this ceremony of the mother tongue and language. Within the framework of the legislative election, a delegation from the National Media Committee led by the chairman went to the Tejora region on an inspection visit. Upon his arrival, the delegation was received by the governor of Tejora region, Mr. Hassan Dabali Ahmed, and the delegation members of the National Media Committee held a meeting during which several points were related to the legislative election procedures were discussed. The committee set a time for the fair broadcasting of the various political gathering for the legislative election. And for this purpose, the committee delegation informed the Conservative Council on these issues. The team sent by the RTD for the media coverage also participated in this meeting. And in Oboho region, in the framework of the legislative election, a delegation from the National Media Committee, led by its chairman, went to the Oboho region on an inspection visit. Upon their arrival, the delegation was received by the prefect of Oboho region, Mr. Abdul Malik Mohammed Banoita. the members of the National Media Committee held a meeting during which several points were related to the legislative election procedures were discussed, and the committee set a fair broadcasting time for the various political gathering for the legislative election. The Djibouti Radio Television team with covers the legislative election participated in this meeting. Still in the legislative election, a delegation from the National Media Committee headed by the chairman of the committee, Mr. Ali Mohammed Dimbiu, headed this morning in Oboh to an inspection visit. Upon his arrival, the delegation was received by the governor of Oboh region, Mr. Abdul Malik Mohammed Benoita, and the delegation held a meeting with the authorities of the region, including several points were related for the team from Djibouti Radio Television Corporation were also participating in this coverage. Remember also that the National Committee has set a fair time for the various political issues, where the chairman of the committee discussed the placement of a committee with this authority of the province in Oboh region. And now moving on to the international, since news researches led by the scientists from the National Museum of Kenya has revealed a tool and plant materials used by the human 2.9 according to 9 million years ago, according to the professor on this anthropologist at Queen's College in New York. These tools represent a real technological breakthrough on the only known on these toolboxes stone came from this site of Kenya, the site, but are much less this complex. The anthropologist Mr. Thomas said that this discovery offer a glimpse into the worlds our ancestors inhabit and shows how stones technologies allow them to adapt to the different environment and pave the way for human today. In Sudan has sent a team of 40 rescuers in Turkey to support search efforts after devastating earthquake that killed more than 22,000 people in one of the worst disasters in the region in the century. Elements of defense forces left in Khartoum, Sudan International Airport on Friday and will land with the blanket tents and a large number of resources equipment on board before Sudan. Algeria had deployed a team of rescuers a few hours after this tragedy in Turkey and Syria. This is it for this edition. Thanks for watching and have a wonderful evening.